Hi there, my name's Hayden Finkelshtain. I'm the voice of Gorthion, Gorillion, Professor K, and Warrior Whale. Oh yeah! We're watching BakuTalk.
Hello, brawlers, and welcome to the BakuTalking Longer Podcast. I'm Haru, and I got another guest for you here today. He has appeared in shows like Sea and Murdoch Mysteries, but most of you Bakugan fans will know him as Gorthion from Battle Planet, Gorillion from Armored Alliance, and as well as Professor K and Warrior Whale from Evolutions. So here he is, the amazing Battle Planet original himself, Hayden Finkelshtain. Oh yeah! How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How's everything going with you?
Oh, pretty good. Thank you so much again for coming on, and once again, congratulations on your recent marriage.
Thank you. We're very excited about it.
How was the ceremony?
It was really nice. Like it was, it went about as well as we could have hoped it would go. And if anybody watching or listening has planned a wedding before, then they'll know that that's really a feat. And it honestly, it went off really, really well. We got really, really lucky, like in terms of just like COVID stuff and, everybody having a nice time and everybody getting along and people working together. Like it all went really, really well. And it was a really good foundation for a very, very meaningful ceremony.
That's very amazing to hear. Congratulations to you and your wife, and we wish you eternity of happiness.
Thank you. Thanks.
So Hayden, you've graduated from the Ryerson Theatre School in Toronto with a Bachelor of Fine Arts Performance. Tell me all about your journey. How did you start acting and all that?
Yeah, so I went to the name it's Ryerson, but it actually isn't even called that anymore. It's now it's Toronto Metropolitan University is the new name. So that's what you need to look up to find my old school.
Oh, okay.
But that's a new change that has been highly contested and debated, and Anyways, I did go to what was formerly Ryerson University. I studied theater, actually. So I trained in live performance, it was a difficult program at the time. I don't know anymore. Like I couldn't, I've been asked in more recent years about the program, and since the university, it's kind of shifted, and the program itself has shifted a lot. So I don't know anymore what it's like. But at the time, it was really challenging. Like it was basically like working a full-time job. Like university is hard, even in what someone might consider like, the easiest or less or least time intensive program. But anybody who's done it, what's that?
I know the feeling. University being
it's hard, man. My sister's in university right now, and I know like she's like it's challenging at the best of times. But anybody who's done a theater program, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, will tell you that they work you really, really hard. But I trained in theater.
Have you ever been in theater performances? I know your fellow Bakugan co-star Josette Jorge is currently in Bad Parents theater, which is currently running. But have you ever dipped your toes in actual live theater performances or Broadway shows?
Well, Broadway, oh my gosh, no. That would be amazing. That'd be very, very cool.
Well, Broadway, but like actual like plays and all that stuff.
I did. But it's this industry that we all like, us all in Bakugan work in is really hard. It's a very unforgiving industry. And I trained in theater because that's, in high school, I kind of fell in love with it. And then I did it in university, and I continued to fall in love with it. And that's the basis for my training. And when I came out of university, I worked on a couple of plays, but it's really hard. And especially in a city like Toronto, what I discovered very quickly, which, is great, but makes it kind of challenging to get your foot in the door, is that Toronto, a lot of theaters in Toronto, they'll work with similar folks over and over again. And so in one sense, that's really good because there's a sense of loyalty there, but in another sense, it can be challenging to find your place. So coming out of university, yeah, I worked on a few things, and I still love theater, and if I have the opportunity to do it, I will. But I actually had a pretty hard time finding work coming out of university, which is why I got an agent and I started auditioning for voice stuff and film stuff and TV stuff and commercials and whatever. Like you kind of have to, beggars can't be choosers is that saying, right? Like you really have to, you kind of have to take what you can get at the beginning.
I know there's a lot of people that make the comparisons as well, like theater and acting. There's a huge difference with theater. Theater is a live performance, right? There's no once you go out there, you can't mess up, or there's no second chances. Well, in acting, they say cut, do it again, and all that stuff. But I wanted to get your perspective of it. What's your experience live theater? Do you think that performing in live theater helps you out with acting in terms of quality control and all that?
I think my opinion is that I think especially in North America, not all professional actors, in fact a lot of them don't, not all professional performers, especially at a very high level, have any theater training at all. It's not necessary, it's, to go to school for it, you could potentially spend tons of money and not ever work. And somebody could, with an engineering degree could come and, they could decide, wow, you're a great fit for this, huge movie. And so you don't really need that training. However, I believe very strongly that a basis in live performance, I think it's a really, really helpful foundation for film and TV, and especially for voiceover. I think it's, with theater, often because you're playing, you're just a small person with other people on a stage, and there's people watching from really far away, and so you need to use your entire body and your voice to fill a large cavernous space. And it's like tuning an instrument to be able to do that. And it can be challenging if people are coming to theater from film, I would think. It might be a challenge because they're used to playing small for the camera. And so it would be more challenging, I believe, to try and push yourself out to try and fill that space, as opposed to somebody coming from theater into film. It would be a little bit easier, I would think, to pull yourself back, right? Because you've already got the instrument developed, so it's just a matter of not, pressing the notes as hard, so to speak.
I really like that analogy, being a small person having to fill a large room, because that's really what it is, right? Because on theater, you have a lot of people watching you as opposed to a small TV, which I'm doing right now. Do you feel like when you ever do voice recording, you treat it like a live performance?
And I think what a lot of people who do voiceover, and who do more voiceover than me, or people who direct voiceover, especially for animation, but in general, I think what they'll tell you is that it's really helpful to have that live theater experience. I mean, first of all, just because if we're talking about your voice as an instrument, you get used to pushing it, hopefully not in an unhealthy way, but you get used to pushing your voice to fill large spaces. And with theater, you get really good at developing your imagination, right? Because unless it's a show with millions of dollars behind it, often what you'll find is it's one set, one room, one wall, and the rest of the space and the rest of the world, the actors kind of have to imagine. Whereas in film and TV, you get, loads of props and different sets, and you can move to a different location. Mm-hmm. And so for voiceover, especially for animation, and especially for something like Bakugan, which is out there and otherworldly and cool and has to do with monsters that battle and all this stuff, it's really helpful to be able to imagine the space. I mean, Bakugan's a little different because it's a dub, so you actually do get to see it. But regardless, it helps you put yourself in that space and fill it. I think it's really helpful.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I do notice that a lot of I have a couple of friends who actually did theater performance in high school, and they went to university, and they're still doing. And I think they're still doing theater performances there, like doing theater performance class and all that. I noticed, and then one friend of mine actually got on a TV show or something, and I noticed that it's made her a better actor. As a result,
I think it's
I feel like when you do like live performance and you treat like acting on camera as a live performance, it makes you more dependable as a worker to the director, right?
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing is like I think, pardon me. There's a like a work ethic, or there's a degree of like. Yeah, theater's just kind of unforgiving in terms of the work, right? Like, they're most often, paid a lot less than folks who are doing like film and TV and commercials, especially. This is not me saying that film isn't a lot of work, because it is, and it can be very, very taxing emotionally, and it can just be, it's really challenging work. But theater is just like, you're doing a show potentially 7-8 times a week. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. It often can be a lot more taxing on your physical body, though not always. And it's pretty unforgiving. So I think there's a work ethic perhaps about theater that makes it really useful and transferable to other, artistic mediums that use actors.
When I was young, I was put in martial arts as a kid. And one of the things that we had to do was be part of the Chinese opera. So I couldn't stand like even like a week of that. One of the things that we had to do was like learn how to sing, do gymnastics and like fight choreography and all that. And they put us through like this really intense training regimen. We had to like do the horse dance for like an hour, and it's like it was so bad. I cannot imagine like what theater is like, what the theater program is like. Oh
yeah, and also like bear in mind like
but my program I think was like physical. Was like more physical in terms of performance. Yours like in the theater program, I think it's more like philosophy and like so many other things of degree that goes into theater, right?
There is a lot, yeah. Well, it was practical, like it was a practical program, meaning like we were doing shows all the time and working in like a hands-on way.
I never made it to my first show.
What's that?
I never made it to my first show.
No?
Nope.
Yeah, fair enough. Listen, it's hard, man. It's challenging.
Great words of wisdom from you, and really great to talk about theater and all that. So let's talk about Bakugan. First off, you booked the role as a Gorthion as well as different various other roles in the first season of the reboot. Tell me how that came about. Tell me all about how you got the role. What did you expect when you got the role of Gorthion?
So the original audition, if I remember, now my years are all messed up now, and also because of COVID, like the last 3 years have felt like 1 year. So I'm like and also it's felt like a million years. So I might get the years wrong here, but do you remember when the first season aired? Was it
2019?
2019. Okay, so I must have got the audition. So I guess that means if it aired in 2019, we were probably recording in 2018. So I either auditioned like nearing the end of 2017 or beginning of 2018. I don't quite remember, but what I do remember was this audition, or this initial tape, because often what they'll do is you don't especially nowadays with COVID stuff, but even still back then, like they'll often send out a request for a tape first. So you'll put down just a sample track in your house, in your closet, or if you have a booth, in a booth. You'll send it, and it'll kind of like go into the ether, and you may not ever hear from them. But that initial audition I remember getting, and there was just like a ton of roles. There was a ton, and they were like, "Hey, audition for as many of these parts as you'd like," if I remember right. And so what I remember was Gorthion was on there because he was pretty prominent in the beginning of the first season. But it was also, I remember Trox was on there. I think I put down a tape for Trox. Lightning, funny enough, was on there. I remember like putting down a tape for Lightning, and at the time I didn't realize he was going to be so small. I remember, and they just described him as kind of like a bulldog type thing. So I put down like a sluggish, like kind of thing. What else? There was Nilius maybe. Yeah, there was just a bunch of parts, and I was kind of sort of fresh out of like getting my degree. It had been maybe a year or two, and I was really interested in voice, and I'd done a little bit of voice already. And I was like, I really want this. This would be really, really cool. So I laid down as many tapes as I could possibly. I think the only roles I avoided were roles that they obviously did not want me for. Like, I think the Pegatrix was on there and stuff. And I was like, well, not going to book that. So I didn't put down a tape for that, obviously. But, yeah, any role that was even, like, kind of close to something I could do, I just put down. And that was it. And then it went away into the computer, and that was it. And I didn't really think about it. And I don't know how, a while later, I got a notification that they wanted to bring me in for an in-person audition. And this was at a time a colleague and I were producing a short film. And the audition just so happened to be on the day that I was supposed to drive this big U-Haul truck around the city and do a bunch of pickups of gear, like sandbags and all this really, really heavy, cumbersome stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, God. And I didn't want to tell my colleague. I don't actually know if she knows this still, but I'll be sure to send her this episode so she knows. And I was like, yeah, it's going to take me this long to get all the gear, however long. And I added an extra hour because I was like, I got to make it to this audition. So I drove this U-Haul across the city. I picked up all these sandbags. I was like so sweaty. And I parked it in a parking lot. And I was like, all right, I hope this van full of gear that isn't mine is okay. And I ran to the studio where they were doing the auditions.
Wow.
Yeah. And the audition, it was a similar deal. They had all the scripts out for all those parts, and they said pick two. I think 2 or 3. And so all the parts were there, and I just picked Gorthion because I was like, that feels in the ballpark. I think I picked Trox. Yeah, and that was it. And then I went in, and it was typical, like, you do your thing, you do your read, they redirect you, and then they say, okay, thanks a lot, see you later. And that was it. And then I guess a few weeks later or whenever, I was at my part-time job, and they were like, we want you to do Gorthion. I was like, yay! So that was the story of auditioning for it.
What a story!
Yeah, that was my initial audition story.
You were doing something else, and then you had to extend the time to do of doing it just to make it to that audition.
Yeah. It was really, really awesome. And after the audition, I got back in the U-Haul. We were shooting north of the GTA, Greater Toronto area. And yeah, I just drove up north and we shot a short film.
That sounds like quite the Hollywood story.
I don't know about Hollywood, but it was certainly a pain in the butt, is what it was.
But hey, it paid off because you're in Bakugan. It's like kept on. It's like a series that's still kept under wraps. People are currently Legends is recording, right? So people are still clamoring, still trying to find leaks of the anime, trying to get some level of information of what's gonna happen. And Spin Master's literally keeping it under Marvel level wraps.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool when I booked it, and especially I had done voice stuff before, but I hadn't ever done something of Bakugan, I don't know, size, magnitude. And so it felt really cool, and then it felt really exciting. And then I didn't realize when I first booked it that it would be a thing that like people were going to have, there would be rumors about it, and people were looking for leaks and stuff like that. I had no gauge. But I started realizing it very quickly, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And I didn't know. All I got told when I booked it was that the first season was, I don't know, I think it was 50 episodes or something like that.
Yeah, it was like 50.
Yeah, and all I got told was we were recording the first 25 or something like that, like the first half, and Gorthion is in half of those episodes, right? And so I was like, okay, I don't know how big this part's going to be. I don't know if it's going to continue. Maybe it's just one season. Maybe it's just a quarter of the season. But either way, it's cool to be involved.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Gorthion has his design. I'm not personally a big fan of. No offense. Not knock to you.
Hey.
it's like giant. It's just a giant gorilla. That kind of scares me a little bit. but then all of a sudden, but then I got like really. But like this is where it got really confusing in Battle Planet because like in the first two episodes, the first episode it was Pegatrix that was Leah's partner Bakugan. But then the second episode, Leah got Gorthion for some reason. Pegatrix didn't show up until like 3 episodes in or something, and then all of a sudden she's Leah's new partner Bakugan out of nowhere. But I remember Gorthion was still a pretty funny character. I remember there was one scene I remember it was like the 3rd episode, I think. He and Trox and Drago were in like chibi mode, and we're like Bakugan Battle. That was pretty funny because they were asleep or something.
I remember that.
Yeah, what was it like recording that particular part?
I was just gonna say anything. I mean, I don't remember 100% like that, like recording that moment necessarily, but what I can tell you is I'm sure this is how this went. If you're recording, like, there's often in the show, like, there's characters that will speak over one another, or like they'll say the same thing at the same time. And usually the experience of recording is that you go in and, you just kind of do your stuff. Like, for Gorthion, it was just a lot of like grunting and fighting noises. So you'd go in and you'd be sitting by yourself and you'd be watching this footage and just trying to follow along, hey, whatever, stuff like that. But if ever it was times where characters were speaking together, in your ear, if you weren't the first person to record that part, you'd have the other actors in your ear. So if it was that they were saying Bakugan Battle, then it was probably, I guess it was you, Cal. If it was Trox and I probably had him in my... What's that?
It was also Jason too.
Okay, there you go. So I probably had them in my ear going Bakugan Battle, and you have to just like match the exact rhythm because they've already put it down.
Oh.
Unless you get lucky and you're the first person to record that thing, then you get to decide how it goes.
Oh man, that's pretty sick.
It's funny. It's a fun experience recording it.
When and obviously you're pretty close with like the rest of the cast. I remember there was an Instagram post that you put out. Devin got you a Gorthion.
Yeah, it's nice. I feel like the first year of kind of recording, there was a real. I mean, there still is, but there was like a real camaraderie in that first year, and also this doesn't include Devin, because Devin's been in the game a really, really, really long time, like working professionally. But there was a kind of a group of us, I think, in that first year where Bakugan was kind of our first big animated thing. And so there was a lot of us were all really excited, and yeah, Devin was really great. He got me. Yeah, it was like there was zero expectation. I barely knew him, but we just happened to be crossing paths at a record, and he was like, "Oh," and he like whipped out a backpack and he pulled the Gorthion out, and I was like, in my brain, I was like, "Are you just keeping everybody's Bakugan in there so that like if you happen to run into them, you can just gift them this?" It was really sweet.
Like
so yeah, I have it. Yeah, and it was kind of my first big animated thing. So my mom was very excited about it, and so I gave my mom that little Gorthion, and it's like sat with the card in. She has like a glass case of like crystals, and so it's sat in the middle at home at my family home.
There is actually a jumbo card, like a giant Gorthion card. Yeah, there is. There's a giant Gorthion card. Actually, I do have it. One second. Interrupting the podcast to show Hayden Finkelshtain a really big jumbo card. It's like this big.
Lord, that's amazing.
And it's like, yeah, it's hex and stuff. It's like one of the jumbo cards that you can buy in like a special set where like you get 3 packs and it comes with a random jumbo card.
I love that, and it feels very for the voice that he has. It feels very appropriately sized.
Yeah, it's very your voice matches Gorthion like really perfectly. It's like a really big giant gorilla. I know people have made comparisons to like King Kong or something like that. If King Kong could talk and rolls into a ball, and Gorthion it's just Gorthion.
Listen, I really like him, so I still hold out hope, though it gets less by the day, that they'll give him his own episode again. I miss doing that character. It was a lot of fun. That was probably, I like all the characters that they've let me play, but I think Gorthion was my favorite to do. I think
it was. There was also like small brawl stories or backyard brawls or something like that, where like Bakugan like mini modes that you recorded for that too. Yeah.
Those were fun because those were actually really fun. Because when, Bakugan, the show, like the actual program, like there's a lot of characters and a lot going on. And often, like Gorthion was in a lot of the first season, but even in the episodes that he was in, there were very few episodes where he was like a huge part of the story. So often you'd come in and just record like some grunts and fighting and whoa, yeah, come on, whoa, whatever. But those Bakugan, those like small stories were really fun because they had nothing to do with anything like plot related. They were just like a chance to get people like introduce people to the characters. So those were actually a lot more fun to record in the first season than the actual show for me because, they were really silly.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was just like one of those web series things where like it was just a chance to like people to get connected to the characters and all that, all the Bakugan.
Yeah.
There is there's one character that or actually there's more characters, but I'm going to talk about this one in particular. The character that played an integral part of Bakugan's story was Gorillion. And I remember when Gorillion first showed up and like all the infinity armor and all that, everybody was as soon as that episode aired, everybody was wondering, what Bakugan is that? Where can I get that toy? Who is he? He looks so awesome.
Yeah, the toy doesn't exist. I have looked. They don't have one.
Yeah, exactly. The toy doesn't exist for some reason. Like, why? He looks so cool.
Yeah. He is cool, and I hope he'll come back. I was really hopeful that he'd come back in the 3rd season, and he didn't. And so I don't know. Maybe we're too far away from it now, but I think he's really cool. They cast me in that part. I'm pretty sure they cast me and I didn't know what he looked like. Like, they gave me a description. Like, he's a gold dragon type thing. But I had the script, but I didn't know what he looked like until sometimes when you're going in to record, what they'll do now is they'll send, for Bakugan, they'll send you the script initially, and then closer to, they'll send you the episode, like the finished episode, basically, with just like a sound engineer or someone's voice dubbing the lines, just so you can kind of get a sense of the timing. And that was the first time I saw him, and I was like, whoa, he's really cool. Like, I was like, he's too cool for me. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
He's just beating he shows up and just beats Sabra up, and like out of nowhere, and it turns out he's the guardian of the infinity armor that he later gives to Drago.
Yeah, he's mega cool. Mega cool.
He was an essential part of the story. There was I really loved this scene that you did with Rob Tinkler, who voices Tico. He's watching the final battle from the maze for the core, and he wants to like, oh man, I don't feel like Drago's gonna win. I'm gonna separate the core, and then Tico's like, you're not supposed to be using the power, and then your character, and then Gorillion's like, you are in no position to be giving me demands, and then they fight and all that. That was really good reading of dialogue between you and Rob Tank.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my internal, like, Gorillion is of the kind of, I played like a bunch of small parts, but then of the like 4 kind of bigger parts that I've played, Gorillion is closest to my voice, just my actual voice. But
yeah, I noticed.
But he, like, in my brain, he was so like tall and regal, and I was like, oh, there's something Shakespearean about him. So every time he says anything, he enunciates really, really well. Do not tell me what to do. Like, I was like, he's cool. I like him.
Yeah, and he's the one that pretty much has to tell Drago and Trox and everybody, hey, you have to go to sleep because otherwise you're gonna die. And
I was sure that he was coming back because I was like, he puts all the babies to bed, and then he's got to come back. And I was like, where'd he go? So I'm still holding out hope.
But I think a little bit makes sense that he didn't come back because like he's the guardian of like the Infinity Armor and like he guards a core cell, right? So he was probably doing his job. He's like been away from that job for like such a long time because like, he's like helping Dan with the Infinity Armor and all that, and what he had to deal with in season 2.
That's right. Yeah, no, it makes sense, but I just holding out hopes.
Yeah, I really do wish though that he got a toy and that he came back and they came back in a more bigger capacity. The toy, everybody I know for sure wanted the toy. And like they were really excited when Gorillion first showed up. They didn't know who he was, and immediately they're like, "I want a toy of that."
I really wanted the toy because Devin gave me the Gorthion, so I was like, "Well, I gotta." Now I'm like every character I play, I want the toy, but yeah, none to be found.
Unfortunately, and I think it's a little bit too late for that. Just like Tico never got a toy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tico never got a toy, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, well, there you go. I guess because they like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're like kind of one of a kind, right? Like they're not like Gorthion, was a Leah partner, but then Gorthion shows up, other Gorthions show up over the course of the show. So, like, I guess with those two, with Gorillion and them, I guess given that they're one of a kind, they're not one that you would have to battle with. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like Gorillion and like Tico and those things are some like anime exclusive, just for the sake of like story, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So now we fast forward like a couple of years later. I know you played some like background characters like a truck driver, a crowd member, or something like that, as well. But you managed to land a role as Professor K in Evolutions. Yeah. So season 3, I wasn't in at all. And that's kind of how these things work, right? Like we're talking about, like, Gorthion will come back, maybe Gorillion will come back, maybe. I mean, like, it's been a really good learning experience doing Bakugan for me because, stuff just like sometimes you do a thing and it's a gift when you get it, and then it just goes away and you might not do it again, and that's just kind of the way it goes. And so when season 3 happened, I was like, all right, like I don't think I'm in this. It seems to me that like they're not calling me, and I didn't know anything about it. I knew people who were recording for it. Like I'm good. I'm friends with Julius and stuff like that. But I didn't have any info. I was like, all right. I was in bunch of episodes season 1, couple episodes season 2. That's okay. It was a good run. You didn't think much of it? You didn't think like maybe, oh, okay, so season 3 is gonna have only like 26 episodes or something like that. So maybe that's why that they didn't call you in. Not enough characters.
I wasn't sure. I mean, the thing is like there's so many people in the cast, right? There's so many characters.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like real vets, like you mentioned Rob Tinkler, right? Like, I mean, talk about somebody who's been in the game for a long time, right? And reliable, and people know him and they trust him. And there's a lot of folks like that on the show. And so for me, I was like, there's these specific characters I played. When I come in, they would have me do other stuff as well. But if my characters aren't showing up in season 3, they're probably not going to call me in just to do, the extra stuff, the background stuff, because they got, they got veteran voice actors over there who can do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm probably just not in it. I make my peace with it. That's okay. And then when I heard that they were starting to record for Evolutions, I was like, you know what? Hang on a second. I'm going to take this into my hands a little bit. So I messaged my agent, and I was like, hey, like, are you cool? Like, I'm gonna email. There was a producer named. I don't actually remember who I sent it to, but there's a few folks that the crew has changed a little bit. But there's a couple folks who worked on the show at the time, and I was like, I'm just gonna send. Can we just send them my demo and just be like, I'm really interested in re-auditioning? And I don't remember quite how that interaction went, but they were like, yeah, sure, here, actually, and they sent me a bunch of characters for Evolutions. They sent me. It was kind of like the first season. They sent me Professor K. They sent me. It was a bunch of the teachers. Coach Short. I don't know. There was a few characters that they sent me, and they were like, lay down a track for as many as you want. So I did the same thing. I laid down a track for all the ones that I could possibly apply to, and I sent it in, and that's how I booked Professor K. And then Warrior Whale came later, but that's how I booked Professor K.
Professor K is really is a really intelligent character, and I noticed how it's near the end of Evolutions he starts to get like really intense because like that's when he started battling, right?
Yeah, he's fun. Like the intensity was fun because the first few episodes, he's just like. He's a friendly professor and he just wants to give them information and be supportive. And that voice was based off of a number of years ago. I did a touring theater show for youth. We went into schools and I had to play a bunch of parts. I had no beard. I shaved because I was playing a kid, believe it or not, with my voice. I was playing a young kid. But in addition to that, one of the characters I played was Grandpa. And the voice that I came up with was this. And then when I saw Professor K, they sent me a picture of him. I was like, oh, that's the voice. And it worked for like the first few episodes. And then as we got nearer to the end of Evolutions, he started getting really intense. And so I had to like find a way to make Nice Grandpa from the children's theater show kind of aggressive. So that was a fun challenge. But I think it worked out okay.
Oh, it definitely did. I really liked how at the beginning of Evolutions we see this professor who's just like a supportive grandpa sort of like figure, and then all of a sudden, as soon as he battles, that all gloves are off. he's playing to win.
Yeah, he's cool. He's really cool.
He especially has a really cool Bakugan Sculler, and people have been wanting that toy actually, and
does that not exist?
Not yet. It's actually I think like there's some prototypes actually that have been leaked out where it shows something that looks like him. But nobody knows yet. But people are speculating, okay, yeah, it's probably going to get a toy because it's on the background of the Nanogon. It's a silhouette on the background of the Nanogon art. So they're like, okay, yeah, so he's probably going to exist. And we're expecting him, like, it's still October, so maybe, like, end of the year or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Halloween would be a really good time for him, but...
Yeah, that would be a perfect time to release him. Or, like earlier, like, this month, maybe!
I mean, you never know. Yeah, he's cool. He's really cool. I remember the first time I saw the like concept art because sometimes with auditions they'll do that, and so they sent out the art of the character that you were going to audition for. So I had a picture of Professor K just like standing, with that hair and whatever, and then in the bottom corner it said like, and this is his partner Bakugan. I guess just for extra context. And it was like this horrible like flying skull creature, and I was like, oh my god. Wow. It's like Bakugan took a dark turn in the year that I wasn't involved.
There was supposed to be a dark turn, but they didn't do anything about that. Well, Dan in Evolutions, and I guess I could say this now because it's done and it's done airing. Dan and Athena, which is Emily Strange's character, had like a really big rivalry in Evolutions. and like every time Athena wins, Dan just gets more angrier and angrier and more annoyed and all that. And it seemed like he was going for, and it seems like they were going for like a dark character turn for Dan, which would have been amazing because like they kept teasing and all that, but it ended up being nothing.
Oh, that would have been cool. Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, and yeah, it would have been like really cool dynamic too. But nah, it didn't turn out to be anything. But like,
yeah,
it did in a sense get darker because now you have Bakugan dying.
Really? They do?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, but like Wrath died.
Oh, I see.
The main bad guy with Wrath, he died because like he blew up or something. And then like the first like that evolution special, we thought Drago died.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Like, it's been on for a number of years now, and I guess maybe not everybody, but I imagine that there's like, you know, a number of folks who started watching it back in whatever we said, 2019 or whatever it was. And so it's, you know, I guess the program's aging up a little bit as, you know, the folks who are watching it, you know, people as they get older, you know, can take on more stuff like that. And so I guess they're willing to kind of push the boundary of what they wouldn't have done in the first season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first season was phenomenal. The first season was like really good. I really loved Magnus's character arc. Loved the Tico stuff. Obviously, like all the Bakugan, like all that Bakugan collecting and stuff. Gorthion was like really cool to see because like Leah had to like win him from China Riot one time.
Oh yeah. Well, one second. I'm just gonna close my blind. Give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just. I'll lose my vision. There we go. Yeah, that's true. The first season was great. I loved it. Yeah, the Magnus stuff is always amazing. I love what Julius does.
Oh yeah, well, Julius was actually here, and I hung out with him a little bit because he was shooting a TV show here, and he talked so fondly of you.
He's the best. He's a really good dude. Yeah. We hung out not too long ago. So. Yeah, we don't get together in person a lot, but he's a really good dude.
Yeah, definitely. And then finally we move on to Warrior Whale.
Yeah, Warrior Whale was. You remember like before I mentioned like sometimes these things they're like gifts, right? You don't know what you're gonna get, and you don't know how long they're gonna last, but they're like little gifts. They're little presents, and Warrior Whale was a little present. You know, he's not in Evolutions a ton, but so when I kind of weaseled my way into getting an audition for Evolutions, I sent them a demo, like just a short, you know, sample of clips and voices and whatever.
Yeah.
And on there was kind of a Gorthion type thing, except I don't remember quite what the character is exactly, but it's like Gorthion, but as if he were a wrestler, like, you know, oh yeah, double suplex, oh yeah, ooh, whatever, and like throwing somebody around a ring. And when I went for my first record for Professor K, they were like, oh, and also we want you to read for this, for Warrior Whale. And I saw them and they were like, we really like that wrestler thing you were doing, we're going to play with that. And I was like, okay. And you never really know what they're going to want until you get in the room. And when I got in the room, they were like, yeah, let's try that wrestler thing. So I was trying it, whatever, but we all, I think we're in kind of agreement that it was pretty close to Gorthion. And I mean, we're far enough away from it that maybe it didn't matter, but, you know, we'll try something else. And we kind of talked about it for a couple minutes and ended up landing on like this weird quasi Kool-Aid Man thing.
Kool-Aid Man and Otto from Simpsons.
Yeah, it was kind of, it's kind of a mix of like, Otto from The Simpsons and the Kool-Aid Man because he said it in the script. He had a couple of, oh yeah, and I was like, well, that feels really indicative of who this guy is. And then looking at his partner, Chad, I was like, well, okay, this guy can be kind of out there. And so we had a lot of fun in the booth. We actually, sad they didn't include it, but they let me play around and I threw "Oh yeahs" in where they didn't belong sometimes. And the best thing that happened, but it didn't get included, which I understand because I think it would have been silly and distracting. But we all had a really good laugh in the booth because I think it was in that first episode that he appears. He gets defeated, right? And there's a bunch of "oh yeah" in there, and then when he got defeated and gets sucked back into ball form, we threw in a "oh no!" and he went into the ball, and I was like, they have to keep that. That's comedy gold. Alas, it was not in the final cut.
They should have kept it. That would have been so.
I know,
awesome.
Justice for no.
Like when I first saw Warrior Whale and he did the "oh yeah," I immediately thought Macho Man Randy Savage, and I think that was what they were thinking as well when they mentioned wrestler and all that. That's like one of Macho Man's signature catchphrases. "Oh yeah."
That's right. Yeah, it was really silly. It was way sillier than anything I'd gotten to do on the show before, and I was really happy for that. It was it was a nice contrast because I spent a lot of that season recording often somebody who's a little gentler and he had a lot to say, Professor K, like these long sprawling monologues about Bakugan related science and whatever, and then just to be able to end the session by going, "oh yeah, come on." I was like, that's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my god! Just like hearing that and like me doing it myself, it like hurts. It hurts my throat. Does it hurt yours in the same way?
So sometimes, well, I can't speak for everybody. Maybe this is just me. Maybe this is just me being not a good actor. But sometimes in session they move really fast, right? And you don't always know what they're going to want. So when we were playing around with the Warrior Whale stuff, I kind of started in that Gorthion place, and we were like, oh, let's pitch it up a bit, whatever. And we landed on what Warrior Whale is now. And I did it. I did the session, and as I was going through, he had a lot of lines in that first episode that he's in. I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is hard on the vocal folds. And I kind of realized it as we were going, and then I was like, well, we're pretty far in now. Like, I'm not going to ask them to go back and re-record. So I was like, all right, okay. So I moved through the session. I had to drink a lot of tea. And then I was like, okay, I don't know how much more he's going to be in. Maybe it was just the one episode. And then he ended up being in a few episodes. And I went, oh, okay, I got to find a safe way to be able to do this. So the next time I recorded him, I really, really did a long warm-up. And it can be helpful for sessions that are intense to not have the session be the first time you do that voice. This is the same for screaming as well. Like if you have to scream for something, it's helpful to not have it be the first scream of the day when you're in the booth. So when I would do Warrior Whale, I would sit in my car and I would be driving to the session, and I would literally, oh yeah, here we go, come on, all right, whatever. And I would do that kind of for 20 minutes leading up to the session, gently, like not super intense the whole time. So that way, when I got into session, my voice was kind of primed and ready for it. And then I just drank a lot of water because that always helps.
Oh yeah, like you don't want to end up having like a cough attack or something after doing one of those things, huh?
Oh, of course. Well, and also like you could hurt yourself too, right? Like you could damage your whatever. And if your job is your voice, then the last thing you want is to lose your voice. So yeah, it's really important you drink a ton of water. And really, really good warm up and cool down too. Sometimes people forget to cool down. I did that in my drive home.
I think your performance as Warrior Whale really captivated a impact because like everybody now wants Warrior Whale, like the toy. Actually,
yeah, I don't have a Warrior Whale yet. I need to get myself one.
Really? Because I got a diamond. Yeah. He comes as a diamond. He also has a single out and all that. There's a Genesis. The capstone for this year is called the Genesis Collection, and there's a Genesis Warrior Whale. The Genesis Warrior Whale didn't appear in the show, but for some reason they put him in the set.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, he's awesome.
So ironically, my friend Chad, his name's also Chad. He's on the channel a few times. He uses a Genesis Warrior Whale.
Nice.
He calls it the whale shark.
Yep. Yeah, he does. Well, there was a character I like perused through season 3, when it came out. And there was what's his name? There's a character. They look kind of similar.
Shakhtar.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is kind of a similar sort of.
Yeah, he was vibe. In the third season.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a similar look. I mean, the faces are different, but yeah.
Yeah, people have drawn the comparison. Sometimes they didn't know like what they couldn't tell what the difference was because they're both like big muscular Bakugan with like that usually live in the ocean but they have legs all of a sudden. And like I always found a distinct difference because like Warrior Whale's a whale, Shark is different. Shark is like more pointy and all that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fun characters on the show. A lot of fun. You're bound to get a couple that look kind of similar.
Oh yeah, definitely. But for Warrior Whale, I definitely very amazing job. I really loved it because me being a pro wrestling fan, I immediately thought Macho Man Randy Savage with that character. And now I want the toy, and I finally got one.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm glad you have one.
I think like there are a few other people in the community that are also wrestling fans, and they immediately see Warrior Whale. They're like, "Oh man, Warrior Whale's a wrestler! Now I need to find a Warrior Whale." So I think you made Smith Master quite a few bucks with that.
Good. I'm glad. He's great. I really, really love him a lot. As much as whenever I would get him on the call sheet, and when if it was a day where they were like, "You're doing Professor K and Warrior Whale," I'd have to go, oh, okay, here we go, and like prepare myself because it can kind of shred your voice. But I do really love him a lot. He's a lot of fun. He's really a lot of fun, actually.
I really hope he comes back for Legends.
Yeah.
Is he coming back for Legends? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that.
I'm not allowed to say anything. But I mean, I'm actually like earnestly. The show records so. I mean, I don't play one of the leads. I haven't in any season, and so. For me, like records are really, really sporadic. So, they only started recording Legends. What is it now? About a month and change ago. I got married, so now it's like my time is all screwy. But it hasn't been that long. So I actually don't know how involved I am in this upcoming season. I know I'm in the upcoming season, but I don't know at all how much. So we'll see. It'll be a surprise for you, and earnestly, it will be a surprise for me.
Well, I can't wait for Legends. Everybody's excited for Legends and all that stuff. And I think it might be airing in January. They didn't give an air date yet, but I think they're still in production, right? So as of the time of recording this podcast, they're still in production for Legends, and we don't know what the air date yet is. Could be January, could be February, could even be April for all we know.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, and again, as I say, like, unless I know that sometimes folks who go and record a lot, the people who are leads, sometimes they are privy to more information. But certainly for me, like kind of more on the, I'm more of a peripheral player. It's always a surprise to me. I never know, even with Evolutions where I was in a bunch of the episodes, I had no gauge the whole time I was recording until we were done recording how much I was in. It would be like, okay, we're starting recordings. You're going to record episode, 1 and 2, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, great, good start. And then a week later, they'd be like, great, now you're going to record episode 9 and 10. And I'm like, oh, great, I guess I'm not in episodes 3 through 8. So the information, at least for me, and I think for a lot of other peripheral players, is you kind of just you get it as it comes. You're not really privy to much.
I think part of that is because Spin Master knows, or the recording company knows how interactive the actors are with the community and all that stuff. So because with the case of Josh Graham and Devin and Julius and even Emily now, they're really interactive with their fans. They're pretty much part of the community. They're fans as well as the series, and they just don't want to risk a Tom Holland situation, right?
Yeah, it's true, and it makes it challenging. Listen, the community, even as somebody who's been more on the outskirts, the community is so good. You're amazing, by the way, and the community is.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, and the community is just so much fun. It really is, really a lot of fun. And even when you play smaller parts, like me, it makes it really enjoyable to be a part of something when you know that people love it, and when you know that people want to collect all the toys and care about what you have to say. It's really nice. Like, I wasn't even, when you approached me to be on this, I was like, oh, that's fun. Like, I'm happy to. But I was surprised because I was like, well, it's been 4 kind of side characters. And I think it's just a kind of a testament to the community. The community of Bakugan's amazing. And, regardless of how many seasons it has, I think that's really special.
I was super nervous asking you to be on the show.
What?
Because you're an actor and all that, and I didn't think, and I thought that maybe like other people are pestering you to like be on their shows as well and all that stuff. So I was really nervous asking you, but I'm super honored that you were able to come onto the show, and we get to have this really great conversation. And it's thank you so much for being on, and I really appreciate it, and I really hope that things go well for you, and like you keep being on Bakugan, keep doing what you do, and it's just a really big honor, man.
Of course. Listen, we're a lot of us on Bakugan anyways. I mean, we're at various, as I said, there's a lot of folks on Bakugan who are, veterans of the industry, and there's folks who are newer to voiceover or whatever. And either way, like being in a city like Toronto, being an actor, it's a tough job, and people at varying stages, we're all just like, people, and we're all just like people trying to get by as best we can. And, like sometimes we have slow years, sometimes we have busy years. And so it's really a pleasure to chat with you, and it's really, really nice to engage with the community.
Oh, yes, definitely. And it's a pleasure to chat with you, too. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people watching this are going to get so much out of it. We get to know the voice behind Professor K, Gorthion, and Gorillion, get some behind-the-scenes stuff and all that. You've been amazing. That's what I'm saying.
Thanks. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, Hayden Finkelshtain, for coming on. You want to plug in some socials, like follow you on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere?
I'm an old man in a young man's body, so I'm not hugely active on social media, but I have an Instagram if they want to follow me. It's just my name, just at Hayden Finkelshtain.
Link in the description.
Check it out in the description.
Yeah, definitely. And once again, congratulations on everything everything so far. Your marriage, Bakugan, and some upcoming projects that you're gonna have. And
thanks, man.
And thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this interview with Hayden Finkelshtain. Support BakuTalk by pressing the thumbs up and give us a subscribe for more awesome Bakugan content. I've been Haru Ren. This has been Hayden Finkelshtain, and thank God for Rapid Fire.
Oh yeah!